It's fundamental contract law. Every first-year law student knows it. Something must be given for something in return. It's called consideration. Example, you have a house for sale. I give you money, you give me the house. Apparently, President Obama was playing golf when they taught that class in law school. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. Do you remember right after he was elected, President Obama ran to Cairo to give his first foreign policy speech where he proclaimed that he wanted to seek common ground with the Muslim world, that his was a new presidency, and that he was no George Bush.
There must be a sustained effort to listen to each other, to learn from each other, to respect one another, and to seek common ground. As the Holy Quran tells us, be conscious of God and speak always the truth. That is what I will try to do today.
Mr. President, with all due respect, I have news for you. George Bush was more popular in the Arab world than you are right now. The truth? Your indecisive, unclear, and feckless foreign policy has literally run our relationship with that region into the ground. And here's the rub. You've been giving billions of our dollars to countries who not only give us nothing in return, but who literally hate our guts. Remember these scenes from last year and that Arab Spring where you predicted good things were happening in the Arab world? The dawn of democracy is coming? But how long are we supposed to wait for that dawn? And how many sleepless nights do we have to go through to get to it? Ironically, it was your administration that threw Egyptian President Mubarak under the bus, in spite of the fact that all had been stable and secular during his 3 decades of his rule. And then you praised the speedy so-called democratic election of President Morsi of the Muslim Brotherhood, who then proceeded to suspend the Constitution, institute Sharia law, and tolerate, if not approve, of the victimization of Christians. And then, when the Egyptian people had had enough, you still support the other guy right to the very end. Your deputy press secretary says that this interim secular government should refrain from violence and resolve differences peacefully with the fanatical Muslim Brotherhood. This after your crack Secretary of State had just praised that interim government for restoring democracy. Hell, why make friends when you can make enemies by simply being your wishy-washy self? And now that they're under a state of martial law, we tell the new government to resolve their differences through dialogue. Really? How would you like it if when the city of Boston was on lockdown and under a state of martial law, the Egyptians called on us to resolve our differences with the Boston bombers peaceably? How can one possibly resolve differences with Islamist fanatics who burn Christian churches, about 50 they say so far, topple police vehicles, and use women and children as human shields, and have as their mantra, with life, with blood, we sacrifice for Islam? Mr. President, now it looks like you're supporting fanatical Muslims. And to top it all off, you call on the new Egyptian government to release Morsi, who's now in jail, accused of murder. While you're at it, why not ask them to release Mubarak, who's residing in the same jail, and maybe they can have a go at it again?
That's right, we bad, that's right. We don't want no either. That's right, darn right. We don't want no
Now, I don't want to take sides here, but it seems to me mistake number one was sacrificing Mubarak, our ally, the one who gave us access to the Suez and overflight capabilities in return for the billions we sent him. And by the way, why do we even feel the need to make the world safe for democracy? Who the hell put us in charge? Aren't enough Americans suffering, out of work, losing their homes, without having to lose their sons and daughters too? What are we even doing in Iraq and Afghanistan? Why are we spilling the blood of young American men and women in a part of the world where they burn us in effigy? Why are we bringing Americans home in coffins? For what? We want to bring democracy to parts of the world who hate us, who despise us, who want to kill us, people whose life mission is to murder as many innocent Americans as possible. Who are we to tell them what to do? Why do we keep getting into these messes? And, Mr. President, you're no help.
I say what I mean, and I mean what I say.
No one believes you or your administration, whether it's talking about that despicable video from Benghazi, or we don't spy on Americans, or the IRS doesn't target political enemies. No one respects us. No one fears us. You even get bitch slapped by Russian President Putin after begging him for 5 weeks to return NSA leaker Edward Snowden. What's that, you say? We don't understand? It's all about oil? That's a bunch of hogwash. I have an idea. How about we, the United States of America, develop our own energy source? America is fully capable of doing just that. You should have approved the Keystone Pipeline. You shouldn't waste our money on your political bunglers' harebrained solar energy nonsense, also known as Solyndra, to the tune of $500 million of our dollars. You should develop the technology that allows us to drill for oil and the fracking that we need to be energy sufficient. But I'm sure you're probably too busy honing your golf game and going to those highfalutin cocktail parties right now. Reports are that you're determined not to allow the chaos and complete constitutional crisis in the most populous country in the Middle East, our one-time ally, until you showed up to interfere with your vacation. But then again, that's no surprise. During the Benghazi attack, you went to bed. You never even asked how things were going there. And then you fire up Air Force One to fly to a Vegas fundraiser for yourself. And during the bin Laden raid, when you weren't being photographed in the Situation Room, you were in a different part of the White House, playing cards. And during the Libyan crisis and the Japan earthquake in 2011, you were filling out your NCAA March Madness bracket. And in 2010, you were golfing during the BP oil spill. Wow, you must be a scratch golfer by now. Maybe Tiger gave you a few tips when you last played with him. But it's your willingness to send our money to those who do nothing but hate us that has the whole world laughing at us. And it's not just in the Arab countries. Throughout the world, your international policies have created a catastrophic loss of respect. In Europe, in Russia, in China, in Japan, and Mexico, not to mention the Muslim countries. We may have lost their respect, and we may have lost their fear, but you don't have to add insult to injury by sending them our money, too. And back to law school and the law of contracts. Mr. President, I'm sure if you did miss those days in law school, there are a lot of places that would let you audit some contracts classes. You could even send in the NSA to take notes for you. And coming up, a Muslim Political Action Committee wants to hold a Million Muslim March on, of all dates, September 11th. Their leaders join me live next.